Hey there. Welcome to Chilling Lullabies. I'm here to help you relax tonight. Though before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It really makes us feel like the global community it is. Just a heads up, there are only a few ads in the first 15 minutes, and after that, it's all completely ad-free. I hope you'll give this video a chance because I truly believe you won't find stories quite like these anywhere else. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's begin our evening together. This is another true scary story, one that shook me to my core because it proved sometimes the danger doesn't sneak in quietly. It knocks on your front door. It happened on a Sunday evening in late autumn. The sun had just set, the streets outside were silent, and I was curled up on the couch with a cup of tea, enjoying a rare, calm night. My parents were out visiting relatives, leaving me alone in the house. Around 8:30, the doorbell rang. At first, I froze. We rarely had visitors at night. Slowly, I got up and peered through the peephole. Standing on the porch was a tall man in his late 40s, wearing a heavy coat, his face half hidden by the shadow of the porch light. Something about him unsettled me immediately. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called out, "Can I help you?" The man leaned forward, his expression calm, but his eyes intense. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I think you're living in my house." I thought I misheard him, but he repeated it, louder this time, his tone sharper. "This is my house. You need to leave." I tried to keep my voice steady as I told him he was mistaken, that my family had owned this place for years. But he shook his head, insisting he had lived here before me, that I was trespassing on his property. Every word sent chills down my spine. I told him to leave immediately, or I'd call the police. His smile twisted into something menacing. He said, almost whispering, "Don't bother. They already know it's mine." My stomach dropped. I slammed the deadbolt shut, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911. The operator told me to stay inside, stay away from the windows, and wait for officers. Meanwhile, the man began circling the house, knocking on windows, trying door handles, muttering to himself. I could hear his footsteps crunching on the gravel, moving from one side of the house to the other. At one point, he pressed his face against the living room window and just stared at me, unblinking, like a predator watching prey. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, flashing red and blue lights filled the street. 2 police cars pulled up, and the man froze in the driveway. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He just raised his hands and calmly told the officers, "This is my house." The police restrained him and asked for his ID. Turned out, he lived 3 towns over. He had a criminal record for trespassing and harassment. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. Tucked inside his coat pocket, they found a set of old house keys, keys that looked exactly like ours, but slightly rusted, slightly bent. When we asked the officers about it later, they couldn't explain how he got them. Our locks had been changed years ago, long before we moved in. Was he a former owner, a squatter, just a disturbed man who convinced himself this was his property? No one could give us an answer, but the look in his eyes, the certainty in his voice when he claimed the house was his, that wasn't just delusion, that was obsession. Even now, whenever the doorbell rings at night, I feel that same icy fear in my chest. because sometimes the scariest horror stories don't come from ghosts or monsters. They come from strangers who decide your safe space belongs to them. This was my true scary story, a creepy experience that reminded me evil doesn't always break in. It can walk right up, knock politely, and ask to be let inside. This is another true scary story, one that still makes my skin crawl whenever I remember it. It happened just a few months ago. I had recently moved back to my hometown to help take care of my aging mother. She's tough and independent, but she's had a few health scares lately. Falls around the house, trouble with her hip after surgery. I begged her to get a medical alert system, but she insisted she didn't need it. That constant worry weighed heavily on me. One quiet evening around 9 p.m., I was sitting on the couch, watching TV, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a local number I didn't recognize. Normally, I would ignore it, but something made me pick up. A woman's voice, calm and professional, introduced herself as a nurse at the local emergency room. She told me my mother had been admitted about an hour earlier after falling and hitting her head. She even said my mother was conscious and asking for me. My heart sank. This was exactly the phone call I had been dreading. The woman knew everything: my mother's full name, her address, even details about her hip replacement surgery from months earlier. There was no reason for me to doubt her. I panicked, grabbed my keys, and ran out the door without even locking up. The drive to the hospital was a blur of fear and prayer. I rushed inside, breathless, and told the receptionist I was there for my mother. But when she checked her system, she frowned and said there was no record of my mom being admitted that night. Confused and desperate, I insisted there must be a mistake. I explained about the phone call. The receptionist shook her head and gently told me to call my mom directly. So I did. And when she answered, groggy from sleep, she was fine. She hadn't fallen. She hadn't been to the hospital. She didn't even know why I was calling so late. That's when the horrifying truth hit me. Someone had lured me out of my house. I jumped back into my car and sped home, heart pounding with dread. When I pulled into the driveway, the front door was closed, exactly as I'd left it. For a second, I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was overreacting. But the moment I stepped inside, my stomach dropped. The house was ransacked, drawers pulled out, shelves emptied, my belongings scattered across the floor. My TV was gone, my laptop, even my small jewelry collection. But what chilled me to my core was what else was missing. Things no ordinary thief would ever take. Family photos had been removed from their frames. My prescription bottles from the bathroom were gone. They didn't just steal valuables, they stole pieces of my life. It felt personal, sadistic. I called the police immediately. When I explained everything, they agreed this had been deliberate. Whoever called me had known things about my mother that only a friend or someone close could have known. And they had used that information to trick me into leaving my house. But the strangest part, they didn't just want money. They wanted something deeper. Why else would they take my family photos, my medication, my personal documents? To this day, I don't know if it was about identity theft, blackmail, or something far more sinister. But I can't shake the feeling that the thieves knew me and weren't finished with whatever plan they had. Since then, I've installed a Ring camera and extra security, but that creeping sensation never left. I still wonder if they're out there, watching, waiting for the next move. This wasn't just a burglary, it was a calculated attack, and it remains one of the most disturbing horror stories I've ever lived through. A truly creepy experience that taught me the most terrifying predators are the ones who already know everything about you. This is a true scary story that happened about 10 years ago, and it still haunts me whenever I think about it. I grew up in a small family house. For most of my childhood, I shared a bedroom with my older brother. 2 twin beds on opposite sides, 2 closets, and barely enough space to move around. It wasn't cramped, but it wasn't comfortable either. When my brother left for college, I finally had the room to myself. I moved his bed out, set up a desk, and for the first time, I had privacy. For 2 years, everything was perfect. Fast forward. After graduating college, I found myself moving back into my parents' house, just like my brother had. The only available space was the upstairs guest room, small and quiet, right next to my dad's office and directly above the garage. Every time the garage door opened, the whole floor would shake. I hated that feeling, but I got used to it. One summer Friday night, I was home alone. My brother was away at a conference in Baltimore, and my parents were at our shore house for the weekend. I was exhausted from work, so instead of going out, I stayed home, ordered some food, and decided to call it an early night. Around 11:30, I was lying in bed, reading, enjoying the rare silence of an empty house. That's when it happened. I heard the unmistakable sound of the garage door opening. The floor vibrated beneath me. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I imagined it, but then it hit me. Nobody was supposed to be home. My parents had made it clear they wouldn't be back until Sunday, and my brother wasn't returning until the next afternoon. My chest tightened. My heart started racing. I jumped out of bed and looked out the window toward the driveway, but it was too dark. I could see the garage door was wide open, but I couldn't make out whether a car had pulled in. Trying not to panic, I rummaged through the closet and grabbed an old baseball bat. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe my parents forgot something. Maybe my brother came back early. Maybe it was a glitch. But as I crept down the stairs, those excuses vanished the moment I heard voices, faint but clear, coming from the other side of the house. There were at least 2 people, whispering, moving around, opening drawers. That's when I knew someone had broken into my home. I dialed 911 and whispered my address. The operator told me to stay hidden, stay quiet, and wait for the police. But I couldn't. Something inside me snapped, an urge to defend my house, to protect everything inside. Against every warning, I tightened my grip on the bat and moved toward the voices. As I got closer to my parents' bedroom, I heard drawers slamming, jewelry boxes rattling. They were searching for valuables. My palms were sweating, my heart pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. Then I did the dumbest thing I could have done. I screamed as loud as I could and burst into the room, swinging the bat. 2 men froze in shock. They hadn't expected anyone to be home, let alone someone ready to fight back. I swung at the nearest man, hitting his leg. He cursed and stumbled. But before I could swing again, the second man, bigger, stronger, tackled me to the floor. The bat slipped from my hands. His weight crushed me. His hands locked around my throat, cutting off my breath. I clawed at him, struggling, gasping, when out of the corner of my eye, I saw the first man crawling toward us, with a knife in his hand. In that moment, I thought it was over. I thought I was going to die on the floor of my parents' bedroom. My vision blurred, my chest burned, and all I could think about was how devastated my mother would be finding me like that. And then, sirens. The faint wail of police cars approaching. The burglars panicked. The one choking me let go, grabbed the bat, and struck me across the head. Everything went black. When I woke up, a police officer was kneeling beside me, asking if I was okay. I was dizzy, my head pounding, but alive. The burglars had fled through the backyard the moment they heard the sirens. Later, as the officers searched the house, a terrifying realization set in. Every door had been locked. The only way into the house was through the garage, which could only be opened by a hidden remote inside my dad's car. A remote I'd left in the car, unlocked. These men hadn't stumbled onto our house randomly. They knew us. They knew our habits. They knew we'd be gone that weekend. This wasn't a coincidence. The police never caught them. And to this day, we don't know who they were. But the thought that someone close to my family betrayed us, that someone who knew us personally wanted to hurt us, is something that will haunt me forever. And I'll tell you this, life before and after you've accepted death will never feel the same. This was my true scary story, a creepy experience I'll never forget. Just one more reminder that the scariest horror stories are the ones that really happened.